Hello! And welcome to Platform 47 of Modern Media Review, the podcast that covers its face, but not its back. I'm Robin Gibson.
And I'm Sean Goligly.
And you've got to say, Sean, that thanks to the government's sheer sort of torrent of creative output, which is on a par with someone like Gregory Isaacs in his prime, isn't it? Although he did hits and they do shit, there's plenty of media about to review.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're putting out more campaigns than McDonald's. And I'm loving it, as they say, at McDonald's. It's a great time to be alive, really, isn't it? If you've not been knocked off or interned or quarantined on universal credit.
I was just thinking about this torrent of creative output, and on a more literary note, I suppose, it's a bit like Kerouac.
Kerouac? That's a nice
Jack Kerouac.
Chocolate bar. Kerouac, is that what you mean?
Kerouac, you like that?
Kerouac.
Well, not because they've an ounce of the beatnik's talent, but rather he wrote in a stream of consciousness, possibly under the influence of booze and Benzedrine.
Possibly.
And while he produced some classic reads like On the Road, the government website, while seeming to show the same chaotic approach, certainly doesn't create great literary stuff.
No, they just keep coming up with slogans, don't they, for the sort of ongoing COVID. Like the latest one I saw was #CoverYourFace, which, for them is probably just down to sheer bloody embarrassment. And then Johnson doing the head, shoulders, knees and toes. Hands, face, space. Another slow 3-word slogan. But, and this is what we're going to talk about, they've also realised that time is passing, and they've had to sort of crank up the Brexit advice campaign into life again, if life is the right word.
We have a classic storm, don't we, really? We've got the COVID-19 pandemic, and the thing that everyone has probably forgotten about, which is lurking in the background and fast approaching, which is Brexit.
Well, they've got the new slogan.
We love a slogan.
3 words: check, change, go. And it brings back great memories of the old Brexit campaign for me, like from last year, which now seems like about 10 years ago. Taking your ferret to the continent, registering in Hungary and roaming inadvertently on the Irish border. I love how they always say on the island of Ireland on the news.
Where's that?
It always annoys me as if people can't grasp the concept of Ireland and the two parts of it, Mind you, maybe they are too stupid to grasp it, but no one says Scotland on the island of Great Britain, do they?
Well, as you were saying earlier, they might do in future.
Yeah, when it's COVID-free and they close the border. But let's be frank. I was thinking of this, Brexit to the government, it must be like that episode of The Simpsons where Homer and Ned go to Vegas, get drunk, and then they accidentally get married to some cocktail waitresses. Everyone's done that sort of thing, but it's usually quite tricky and embarrassing to get out of, isn't it?
I do like the whole Vegas, getting married in Vegas, because it never sounded particularly romantic to me. And I've always wondered if you were one of the odds makers at the spread firms and you were doing an index on longevity for a Las Vegas marriage. I just wonder what it would be, because one of the most famous ones was Britney Spears getting married to a childhood friend, Jason Allen Alexander, as you'll remember.
Oh, yeah.
So they got married on a Saturday, and the marriage didn't last past the following Mondays, which is a bit of a toughie.
Well, I feel like they could chuck that in as a bit of research as well, the Britney Spears angle. The government should have done all its research, and it should have watched that episode of The Simpsons, because Homer and Ned don't get out of it. They sort of try to, because by going on a wild rampage through the casino, which is not sensible tactics, but probably very gov.uk. But instead they just get the shit beaten out of them, and then they get barred from Vegas, and the cocktail waitresses dump them. And then they've got to hitchhike home, but they get attacked by vultures, I think, on the way. And the whole episode just ends up with the sound of them screaming.
Well, it's quite possible that we all end up screaming at the end of COVID and Brexit.
Well, the government are trying to get out of it with a glossy TV ad, aren't they? Like asking everyone else to take the responsibility. They're shifting the blame all over the place. Cover your face as if it's your fault if you don't. And, sooner or later we're going to get the previous Labour government crammed into it somehow, aren't we?
Well, when all else fails, blame the previous government because, they're not going to be there to answer for themselves, are they?
No. Anyway, the ad, right? You've watched
Yeah.
it, right? It's all about arrows. They've gone for that arrow motif. Very
I like it.
Go ahead, mod, jam, very 1970s.
Well, that is the great thing about dealing with life in the 21st century when you go back to something from the 70s, isn't it?
Well, it's about the best previous era we can hope to be sort of dragged back to, isn't it? I mean, better than the 50s or the 1870s or the 1920s. 70s is not too bad. Plus, the ad's all about fish. Popular Brexit.
Motif?
Yeah, there's fish are sort of arrow-shaped, aren't they? Well, they're pointed at the end, aren't they? Anyway, the ad's full of fishermen, and then the people carving out arrows and wearing arrows. It's all very deep, like we're being fired at a target against our will. Like sort of involuntary human cannonballs.
The bit I liked was the very jolly woman in a purple maxi dress, but she had a whacking great yellow arrow from foot to neck.
Yeah, but purple and yellow, isn't that the Brexit Party? UKIP colours.
That is very subliminal. Well, and that arrow teeth itself may be more subliminal.
You can't say subliminal, can you?
Not this early in the day. I guess as we head towards the reality of a post-COVID world, where no one other than Boris or Dom actually have a job, the rest of us are left to mug each other for coins after we splurged our Rishi Sunak burger vouchers at McDonald's. We'll have no worries then about wearing our arrowed uniforms in Wormwood Scrubs or Brixton Prison, perhaps.
Wow, you've really thought that through.
Wear
the arrow, clonk someone over the head for a few coppers and get banged up.
Absolutely.
And you're already wearing the uniform.
Well, and according to the Daily Mail, you lead a life of Riley in prison anyway.
I know, it's all foreign holidays and colour TVs, isn't it?
Absolutely.
The thing is, you've been quite specific there. You've seen the trajectory, whereas the slogan's all very vague. Check, change, go, and it's got ticks, like a checklist. I mean, what are we checking? Where are we going?
What was also quite interesting about this was I did notice that the check, change, go slogan was contained in red, amber and green traffic lights motif, which very, very much in the style of modern media review, Robin.
Yeah, we thought that up, of course.
We did, of course. We're first, I think.
No one else has ever done that. Anyway, they've got one of those women doing the voiceover in that slinky style, like MasterChef, saying, "This is the moment, it's a new start," to make you feel all like calm, like, like Money Supermarket. And then you've got, like, just to sort of run through the ad, because I've watched it a few times, at the first few seconds, there's 2 shots of fishing boats. 2.
Always like that.
And then there's some Amazon-type parcel forklift trucks, but it's not Amazon. And then there's a guy with one of those metal things that shares off sparks. I don't know, manual labour's not been my thing, but is it welding, the sort of thing?
I think that's you'll find that's precision turning on a lathe, Robin. I mean, didn't you do this in metalwork at school, or was Paisley Grammar a bit posh for that?
No, we just did sort of Roman pillars, sculpture and stuff like that. And then you've got a tailor, cheery tailoring, because it is, isn't it? It's a right laugh. And we'll all get bespoke clothes, won't we, along with the honey, grapes and wine. Do you know about the honey, grapes and wine?
Where's that come from?
Last year, Michael Gove, I made a note of this quote. He said, he was talking about cutting tariffs. He says, "I should say as a result of cutting these tariffs, we'll see a 15% reduction in honey from New Zealand, a 9% cut in the cost of grapes from South America, and a 7% reduction in the cost of wine from Argentina." So it's just all going to be honey, grapes and wine, isn't it? We can sit among them. I'll knock up some Roman pillars and we can sit among them supping wine and eating grapes and honey. Anyway, get moving, she says. It's in our hands now.
Ooh.
And then you've got baking, shopping, clubbing, welding or whatever it is. Just an average day for anyone. And then there are people travelling on planes, going through airports. But
not anymore.
No.
Not anymore.
Some scientists probably looking for a cure. Bright minds in technology, she says.
Well,
but I'll get onto that a bit later with the website, because apparently there's a shortage of bright minds in the UK.
Well, it's all in our hands now was a bit rich, because it's not really in our hands at all, Robin. Our fate is very much in the hands, well, as Kevin and Perry used to say, bigger boys.
Boys, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't fancy our chances of outmuscling the US, Europe or China in any future trade deal. Never mind telling the Commonwealth how much we really love them, even though we dropped them like a bad habit when we joined Europe in the 70s.
Well, it's interesting you make that point with bigger boys. I've always felt that might be the government's ultimate excuse, isn't it? When things go tits up, they'll just say a big boy did it and run away.
Slightly crying.
Anyway, we've got to plan ahead, make the changes, get going. So as usual, right? It's all
well, it's
on
up
us.
to you, Robin.
It's all
up
on
to you.
us. You've
Absolutely.
got to sign up for transition. But we'll keep our thoughts on transgender till we go on Twitter later.
Yeah, we do that about 12 o'clock after a couple of bottles of red wine.
Yeah, definitely. That's always a good idea.
I think so, yeah.
And then I noticed that was the TV ad, which is all quite jolly, and it just says bland things like planning, get going. Different ad on the government website, isn't there?
Definitely.
With different music and it's sort of funky, low-key techno. Sounds a bit sinister. And then it's got a completely different load of advice that's much more sort of specific.
Well, hang on. I mean, the one specific thing that really struck me in the face when I looked at it was where it says, take action, again, which I like, responsibility firmly pushed onto me.
It's very much like a Jam record, isn't it? Action. You can remember, they didn't have a record that said action as one of the sort of hoots.
Start was one of them as well.
Yeah.
So what we do is we start, take action, and sign up for the emails. I mean, oh my God. We've really got nothing to worry about Brexit-wise when the government can sort us all out by email, as long as we take the responsibility to sign up for it.
Yeah, and make sure it doesn't arrive in your spam folder.
Absolutely.
Then there is a lot of stuff that's not on the TV one as well about more sort of serious, like kind of Brexit-y rhetoric about being a sovereign nation, for example, which I thought we were, aren't we?
We always used to feel that we were, but maybe this is something new that we can double think our way back into. Here's the best way they can sort it out. As with any problem that you've got, and Brexit is so set up for this, it's unbelievable. So once we've signed up for a few emails, we'll go online to one of those companies like, I don't know, Franklin Mint or Hattons of London. You know, the ones that that make gold coins. And we'll strike a Brexit coin in 9-carat gold, because that'll be about how much it's worth, this deal, when we get out of it. We stick Britannia on the front, maybe on the back some fishing boats, forklift trucks.
Yeah, definitely.
Knock them out for $5. We'll all buy one, and that'll fill the government coffers for paying back all the furlough debt.
Perfect.
See it, buy it, sorted.
Everyone's a winner, including Franklin Mint.
I always wonder where they are when they say, Franklin Mint, because it sounds quite posh.
I think they're in Scunthorpe or somewhere like that.
Do you know what I mean? And Hattons of London. The one thing you know that it's nowhere near Hatton Garden, and it's probably not in London either.
Anyway, talking of businesses, this ad is telling businesses that they're going to need a new approach for trading with their partners, which I suspect what they mean is it's not so much the approach that needs to be new as the partners are going to be new.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe we'll get deals with places like Benin and Bhutan, because they sound a bit like Britain, don't they? But they're not European. And I had a look at Benin and Bhutan, and they produce some excellent stuff. Benin has got a fine record of cashew nut production.
I like cashews.
And Bhutan churns out top quality concrete. So that's two good things we can get.
Well, what are we going to send? What are we going to trade with them?
We'll just send them whatever we've got, what's left in the wreckage. I think Clark's shoes, they're British, aren't they? Tizer, Imperial Leather, all that. It's there's going to be a lot of exciting new deals, new partners, new approaches. And it also talks about stuff that, that's not in the TV version that people might care about, like registering residency rights and trade regulations.
That's all piffle, mate.
It's just unnecessary red tape, isn't it? I thought we were going to get rid of all that. And then fishing, it says we're going to take back control, got that back in, of
like
UK water. Now,
what?
I don't know about you, but I've always found water quite hard to control.
Very slippery.
Unless you've got a tap. But otherwise, water's very much up for anything, and it's quite sort of raucous, isn't it, in its own way?
Well, the other thing is, the water that comes from our taps, don't the bloody Europeans own all that anyway?
I think it comes direct from Russia.
Mind you, there was some bad news on this website as well, which I don't...
Bad news?
Yes, it wasn't all great news. There was some bad news about firearms. Because UK residents are no longer going to be able to use a European firearms pass. So, Robin, leave your shooter at home before jetting off to Ibiza, yeah?
I always get asked that in Brixton. When I try to hire one for the weekend, they say, well, okay, mate, it'll be 25 quid, but have you got your European firearms pass? Anyway, talking of firearms, let's pause for a while, calm down, and say we'll do some recommendations for our listeners who we know they listen because they tell us that they listen, but what they don't do is subscribe. And frankly, I'd rather they subscribed than listened. Well, obviously, both would be better.
I've got a little slogan for this. Listen, subscribe, share.
Yeah, that's good. 3 words, yeah.
Exactly.
And sign up for emails, although that's really unnecessary. But you can listen to us on YouTube, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And other platforms, apparently.
Very sinister.
And we've got a website, modernmediareview.com. So please do listen and subscribe if you listen.
And share.
And share. And enjoy it.
We're not worried about that.
Let's go back to the government's Brexit advice. Now, they've also got a website, which, as we did say in a previous edition, it's not a proper website like ours. It's more of a sort of information pack like you might get at the entrance to a soap exhibition or something like that, or a local dog show.
Parish newsletter.
Yeah, there's a guy on the front, though, just like in the ad with one of those metal things with sparks. What was it again?
Precision lathe turning.
Right, okay, so he's carving out an arrow again. And then at the bottom, what I liked was when you go to the bottom, right, because there's a news section, but apart from the news that they're going to have this campaign, which is a bit, like Mary Nightingale or someone introducing a bulletin halfway through the 10 o'clock news to tell you the news will be broadcast at 10 o'clock. Apart from that, the latest update is from February, which suggests they've not been thinking about this too much. They leave it all to the ad agency, eh?
Yeah, that'll sort it all out. And it is a touch worrying as we hurtle towards a no-deal Brexit, that the header on the website saying how to prepare if the UK leaves the EU with no deal, it now contains a little box underneath in which there's just some very simple advice, Robin. It says, this collection was withdrawn on 7th February 2020, as it contains out-of-date information, which I found very useful.
It's all about as straightforward as the COVID advice, isn't it? Again, they've got more of this minor stuff, haven't they, about import controls. Who cares? And the points-based immigration system. Just fluff, really, nothing to worry about. Although, they've got this £25,000 minimum wage requirement that you have to be earning before you get here.
Okay.
Well, but, you have to have a job that's going to earn you 25 grand. If you earn it says if you earn less than this, but no less than 20,480.
I like £480.
It's going to really piss off would-be immigrants who are earning £20,400, isn't it?
So close.
It says it's a bit like, it's amazing this. It says you might still be able to apply by trading points on specific characteristics.
Oh, I like that.
Trading points. For example, it says, if you have a job offer in a shortage occupation or have a PhD relevant to the job.
PhD? Well, as we've discussed in previous podcasts, Robin, I was just wondering whether there's a big shortage of people was in picking fruit and veg. Now, would a PhD help you pick fruit and veg?
I can't see how. I suppose if you're thinking about the biological makeup of the fruit and veg.
Get your back bent and pick the fruit, mate.
You could probably get a PhD in that sort of thing nowadays, These universities have always... It's a political correctness gone mad. Anyway, the whole thing about trading points on your characteristics makes it sound a bit like top trumps, doesn't it? Or maybe you've got a characteristic like having a nice smile or being good with ferrets. Or not being bothered about inadvertent roaming.
Well, a bit like how our parents always used to judge a man's character by the shininess of his shoes.
Well turned out.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll be able to get it if you're just well turned out.
Well, I don't see why not.
Anyway, if you look at the list of what they call shortage occupations, this is things that, where they might need them here in England. It says say England.
Yeah, I see that.
Not Scotland. It's massive. Virtually every job. From biological scientists to IT systems designers, choreographers, skilled musicians, because there are unskilled musicians that are here at the moment,
We need to get rid of them.
Welders. Those welders in the ad must be actors because they need welders. Chefs. There's hundreds of jobs where it makes you wonder what everyone in Britain is actually doing.
Ah, well, there you go.
Going to the beach and drinking Stella. Smashing up phone boxes. That leads to a shortage of labour.
Well, certainly Richard Littlejohn, who, as you know, is one of the Daily Mail's keyboard warriors, he's got a view on this. He was only saying the other day he wants Britain to get out of our COVID coma because he's also a bit like the government. He's putting the responsibility of this whole meltdown firmly on somebody else, and he's chosen teachers and civil servants. They're the main recalcitrants, apparently. Backbreaking stuff in from Richard, obviously, knocking out some of those pearls of wisdom.
So he's blaming it on teachers and civil servants. Well, they can stay at home while people come into the country to do the other jobs, because according to this, as long as you've got the characteristics, it's a breeze to come into the country.
Yeah, not so much a breeze if you're coming back from your Spanish holiday.
No,
and you're British, because then you've got 14 days of self-isolation if you fancy to spin over to Spain, because apparently they've had a bit of a COVID spike over there.
Really?
Which was, it's pretty obvious where that came from, caused by Brits pouring over to the Costas after spending most of the summer, as Richard Littlejohn will tell you, boozing it up on Bournemouth Beach, cheek bejow with about 50,000 other COVID carriers.
Let's cut to the chase, right? It's easy to get in, but what about getting out? And never mind Italy or these kind of mild European places. Let's go to where we went before, Hungary. Let's have a look at living in Hungary.
You like a bit of Hungary.
Well, we know, don't we? It's one of the less, shall we say, cosmopolitan EU states. What I'd say is, I've read up on this, and I'm not, but if you are determined to go and live in Hungary, don't take any drugs. They don't like that. And certainly don't make any kind of public display of, same-sex affection. Outside Budapest, where apparently it's not so bad. Because it says you might attract, quotes, unwanted attention.
Well, hold on a minute, mate. I hope you're not one of these culture counsellors, because gay bashing, intolerance, and persecution have been part of our European culture for centuries. I mean, what next? No more pogroms?
No, I think they're bringing them back in Hungary. And even if you do comply like that, you might really not be accepted. Because after you've handed over your sort of gay, rainbow, British driving licence for a good old heterosexual Hungarian one, the next thing it says is you need to follow the British Embassy on Twitter and Facebook.
Blimey.
And then go to one of the embassy's citizen outreach meetings for British people, which makes it all sound as if you might be quite homesick pretty quickly, doesn't it? And then the best bit is after that. Once you've decided to stay, you need to register with the brilliantly titled National Directorate General for Aliens Policing.
Blimey. What, like the aliens that landed at Roswell and abduct folks from the Midwest of the USA?
No, these are just general European aliens. Okay. The Aliens Policing website is brilliant because it's full of pictures of like black and Asian people with wild grins, like they've all just necked a couple of pills. Well, what, who wouldn't be happy with the Directorate General for Aliens Policing on their side?
If you've got nothing to hide, Robin, you've got nothing to fear.
I know, that's so true, isn't it? It also says that if you've got a portable pension that you can contribute to in Hungarian. It doesn't say what, Hungarian what, though. Currency or ex-Soviet glass doll's eyes or gay liver and kidneys. It's all very vague, isn't it? Like most of this stuff.
Well, I guess now that the way that our pensions are going to crash through the floor, Robin, our pensions will become quite portable because it'll literally be about $5 in your wallet.
Let's just say the government Brexit fucking off advice could be sort of distilled into fuck off and take your chances. Which maybe we should stop wasting our time worrying about going abroad, because we're not, are we? And maybe we should apply for this job that's going.
What's that?
A government job. We could do it as a duo.
Really?
They want a mouthpiece, not to put in their...
I did see this one.
Johnson's advertised for someone to do the daily briefings so that he doesn't have to. And so he doesn't have to put up a succession of idiots like Oliver Dowden to do it.
Except, I think we'd have been a bit, given that this was linked in to the Conservative Party LinkedIn page, we'd have been a bit slow out of the gate there, Robin, not being part of that page.
Well, there's a lot of competition. I noticed that Star Sports betting firm are actually betting on this, but the names in the betting, they're all a bit dull, or politicos and journos. The only interesting one in there is Jeremy Corbyn. 50 to 1, he should be 5,000 to 1.
No, I mean, seriously, who's going to sign up to be the government mouthpiece? Although Telegraph did speculate that it would be $100,000 a year, so
Yeah.
might well worth be a go. But you'd have to be like Aunt Sally from Wurzel Gummidge, just ready to have brickbats thrown at you, or maybe if they linked into a few S&M clubs, because the abuse this person is going to get will be brutal. Why do you think Boris and his shambolic cabinet mates are ducking these briefings anyway?
What, the UK government needs someone like Haiti Hopkins or Wiley or Basil Brush. People that aren't afraid to sort of spew out a load of guff and stand by it until the next day, come what may. Or maybe like some sort of criminal like Charles Bronson.
Well, you wouldn't argue with him, would you?
No. Or they wouldn't ask him any difficult questions, would they? The lobby journalist.
No chance.
Or else someone bland, that doesn't offend anyone. Cliff Richard. Lulu.
Meh.
Bungle from Rainbow.
Now you're talking.
Bring back Bungle, I say. The world was a happier, kinder place when Bungle was on the television.
That is very true. Or, I don't know, what about a goldfish?
Yeah.
Because, at least the fish will be confident with policy changes every 4 seconds, because, as we're led to believe, a goldfish will have forgotten the previous advice after 3 seconds anyway.
You've got more of a thing about goldfish than I have about phone boxes, mate.
I know, yeah, it's a bit of a thing for me. Perhaps with all the, Brexit attention on fish, we'd all be a bit happier as goldfish. Bad news would have less of a lasting impact, Robin.
Yeah, it would be great to be a goldfish. And this podcast had a lasting impact as well, hasn't it, Sean? Too lasting.
Too lasting.
So I think we should wrap it up. And we hope everyone's going to be prepared for Brexit.
Plenty
of time.
No problem, yeah.
Plenty of time.
Absolutely.
I'm going to do all my preparations, check, what is it?
You've forgotten already, man.
Check, brush, wash, go or something like that before the next podcast. In fact, I might even be gone. Hopefully not, and hopefully the next one will be in 2 weeks, because we've just had another 3-week fortnight, haven't we?
We have had a 3-week fortnight, which is very nice.
It's all this quarantine and internment. It's discombobulating the time continuum.
Absolutely, but we need to get out of this COVID coma and get back to 2 weeks, Robin.
Yeah, we'll be back out of coma. We'll be non-comatose in 2 weeks' time, giving you another podcast, probably on some more government media, because let's face it, they're the ones putting out all the stuff at the moment, aren't they?
They are, absolutely. They're the best show in town.
Best show in town, apart from this. So on that note, self-congratulatory one, we'll say thanks very much for listening, and goodbye.
Cheers, thanks for listening.
Bye.